Hi everyone, welcome back to another video on the Brush by Brandy YouTube channel. My name is Brandy and this week we're going to be working on this little cutie right here. So I love to do jewelry boxes. I actually have a collection. I bought a lot in bulk from a jewelry box collector. And so I get orders for them occasionally. I do them as I can in between furniture pieces, and they're extremely personal. So these are actually going to be gifts. It's a set of three, a mother and her two daughters, and each of them personalize them to specific to them. So we're going to go through our first one, which is this one right behind me. She gave me some beautiful inspiration that involves some fall colors. We're going to do some blending. There's a little custom painting on it. And it came out really, really cute. So I hope you guys enjoy the process, but stick around and let's get started. Here's where I started on this jewelry box. This one's big and it's beautiful. I loved the details on this. Here's the color inspiration that my customer gave me, and I'm going to run with it. The first thing you'll notice on this one is that the felt is kind of in poor condition. It's actually really clean. It just was coming unglued. So I left it to the end knowing I could paint behind the edges and come back and glue it when I was ready. The one thing I really appreciated was that the fall color inspiration my customer gave me tied in really well with this orange velvet. I actually try to tie the colors of the jewelry box in with the velvet lining so they always coordinate. I'm using Lilly Moon paint on this one, which was a beautiful paint to work with. It was my first time working with this paint. It went on beautifully, it covered great, and it also blended really well. So I'm using several colors. I'll list those in the description for this post. I'm starting out on the bottom with some fresh greens. This is called Yosemite. It's going to blend up into foliage, and then some gillyflower, some sangria, and autumn harvest are the color names. I ended up feeling like this green on the bottom was a little too fresh, and so I muted it down by mixing it with a little bit of Carolina clay, and it gave me this nice muted green. That'll happen later in the video. I kept my darker colors down towards the base, and then I'm going to blend them up lighter as I go up. It ends up looking like an autumn sunset. This is just my base coat on this one, so I'm not too worried about getting the blend perfected just yet. A couple things you'll notice on this one. I didn't take the knobs off the front, and that was because they ended up being glued in, and I didn't want to take the chance of breaking them. And so I did go ahead and just leave the knobs on, and I'm going to go ahead and paint over them, and then use a little bit of gilding wax to bring them out at the end. I'm using a small bristle brush from Klingon on this one, and this is when it's really nice to have different size brushes. They really come in handy, especially when you're working on these tiny little pieces. I've said this before, but doing a jewelry box usually takes me about as long as doing a full-size dresser because the details are so intricate. I'm going to pull out each individual drawer and blend on the front of the drawer as well as on the sides of it, and then I'm going to paint into the frame of it as well. I'm using a different brush for each color as I work my way up. You can see these are some of the details that make these jewelry boxes so time-consuming. This color that I'm working in is called Gillyflower, and it's this beautiful muted shade of pink, but it's very classic. I love this color. That was one thing I really enjoyed about all of the Lilly Moon colors is they're right up my alley. They're all very muted shades, very classic. From the Gillyflower, I'm going to work my way into Sangria, which is this nice rustic red color. After Sangria, at the top I did a little bit of my Autumn Harvest, which is that bright orange color. It tied in nicely with the orange velvet. I just did a little peek of this color. I actually ended up really liking it. I used it with some black wax and it toned it down. It made it really beautiful. All right, so once I've got my base coat on, I came back and I just repeated all of my colors all up the body, and I'm going to blend them together with a little bit more perfection this time. So this brush that I'm using here is one of the Wiseowl premium brushes. This is their 1.5 inch round, and I really like it as a blending brush, you guys. I'm going to use this one a lot. So what I'm doing is I'm going to brush my colors on, and then I come back with that dry neutral brush, that round brush, and I'm going to work my colors together. When I'm working those colors together, I use a little bit of a swirling motion to pull them into each other, and then I'm going to feather it out using a super light hand. Aside from my brushes for each color, I ended up using 2 dry neutral brushes, 2 of those round premium brushes. I ended up using one up top for my warmer shades and then one down low for my green shades. I didn't want to get them mixed into each other, and the brush does start getting muddy after a little bit of use. You can see how beautiful these colors blend together though. This was a really nice paint to work with for blending. I used relatively little water, only a little bit when my paint starts setting up if I need to keep it in motion. I continued this same blend all the way around all the sides of my body. I did leave the top in natural wood, and that's because I'm going to come back and give it a wood treatment later. So here's the secret, guys. After working around that orange velvet for so long, I decided I wanted to remove it. I just didn't like how it looked from the front. It overpowered the look of the blended paint, and I really wanted that to be the showcase. So I removed it, gave it a good sanding on the inside, and came back and just painted that cubby. When I looked at my paint, I decided that I needed to tone down the green on the bottom just a little bit. And this is where I mixed the Yosemite with a little bit of Carolina clay, and then I blended it up into Carolina clay instead. And these were more along the lines of what I was looking for those muted shades. The green before was just a little too bright and springy. So since I'm changing those two colors, I'm going to go ahead and blend all the way up the body again and just give this another coat. Some other inspiration that my customer gave me was that she's a nature lover, and so I want to tie that into these fall colors, and I'm going to do some silhouette trees up the sides of my jewelry box. For this step, I brought my jewelry box inside, and I'm going to paint this on my coffee table while I spend some time with my family. That is the one nice thing about jewelry boxes, is they're very mobile. I'm just going to use some small artist brushes to make my trees. This is a fan brush that I'm using to make the branches, and then I used a smaller artist brush to make the trunk. I'm painting these out in solid black because I want them to just be the silhouette, just the image of trees, but not a full realistic looking tree. These were a great way to emphasize the height of this jewelry box. It's a really nice size, and the trees give it some height as well. These trees ended up looking like the silhouette of a forest up against the rich sky background. I love the colors, the way they emphasized the black. It was a beautiful combination. Little details like this are how you can make a jewelry box so personal. So I always try to get as much information from my customers as I can. Things they like, things they enjoy, colors they like. I love when they give me photos from Pinterest, photos of their room. Anything that I can get from them is always really helpful. So these were the customers' interests that I'm trying to tie in any way that I can. I use those details when I'm making any decisions in putting the box together. When you're working on a jewelry box, you can do things that people might not be as accepting of on their regular furniture, but you can put them in a miniature scale and people love them. My hope for these jewelry boxes is always that they become family heirlooms and they get passed down and there's something really personal. I even offer the option to put my customer's name across the top if they want it to be that personalized. We're not going to do that on this one, but it is a great option. So painting these trees has been really therapeutic. I kind of zoned out on it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, but let's go on to the next step. Some other inspiration that my customer gave me was that she really likes mushrooms. So I happen to have this fungi forest transfer from Redesign with Prima. I'm going to cut out these mushrooms and put them on the top of my box. I had sanded this wood top down to a raw wood and I gave it a coat of gel stain. And then once that's been dried for over 72 hours, I'm going to go ahead and place my transfer right over top. Transfers are awesome because you can put them on a painted surface, but you can put them on wood stained surfaces as well. Here's one of my favorite tips for applying a transfer over a wood stained surface. Once your transfer is applied and you burnish down the edges of your transfer, you're going to come back with a light coat of your wood stain and just put it right over top. And this helps camouflage the halo around the edges of the transfer. I don't know how or why it works, but I promise you it does. I sealed the body of my jewelry box in a coat of clear coat, and now I'm going to come back and add a little bit of black wax just to bring out the edges of this frame around the door and some of the details on the drawers. I'm just using a small natural bristle brush to apply my black wax. Once it's on there, I come back with a dry rag and I'm going to buff away the excess wax, and it's just going to leave that little bit of black in the crevices. You can see when I close the door and then when I put the drawer back in what a difference that little bit of black wax makes in bringing out the details of the front of this box. With my black wax on, I hit the tops of my hardware with just a little bit of gold gilding wax to help emphasize those. I put the screens back into the doors and this one is ready to go. What do you guys think? I love these colors. They're beautiful together. I'm super glad my customer chose them. I'm also glad I took out that felt from the one side of the box. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can find links and a list of everything I use in the description for this post. As always, you can find more Brush by Brandy on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and on my website at brushbybrandy.com.